Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Today I have something really cool for you guys. Check this out. Here we go. Alright, so that looks really cool. I hope you enjoyed that effect as well. Today we're going to see how to create this exact effect in Adobe After Effects. I will be providing you the exact same footage as me with the link in the description below, so you can download that and follow along with the tutorial using the exact same files as me. Apart from that, I want to wish all of you a happy end of the year. Spend it with your friends and family, have a nice time, and let's kill it in 2019. I hope you're ready for it. So without further ado, let's jump into Adobe After Effects and get started. Alright, so here we are in Adobe After Effects and we'll see how to create that effect right now. So I have the footage right here that you can download in the description, and then a texture which is kind of an ice texture that I found on pixabay.com, I suppose. I'll put a link in the description. That's a free website where you can download copyright free photo material to use in your work. So if my voice sounds a little bit weird, I was actually just sick the last 3 days. I'm actually still a little bit sick, so yeah, hopefully you don't mind too much, but I will be speaking from my nose a little bit more. Okay, so what I'll do is drag my footage into a new composition, and I want to find the moment when my hand is lying here on the desk and it's not moving anymore. So basically that's what you want. You want a steady shot, and then you don't want your hand to move too much. If it moves too much, then you will just end up rotoscoping an entire frame. So you can do that, it's just gonna require more work, that's all. So I have my footage. I will go to edit and duplicate this layer, and then I will trim it to the moment right here, and then I will rotoscope my hand right here. So I will rename this roto hand. Go to the pen tool and then just zoom in here and quickly rotoscope your hand out. Okay, so here I have my hand, which looks okay. And if you will solo this, you can see that we just cut out the hand. Next, I will duplicate my original footage once more. So go to edit and duplicate it. And now we're going to rename this Roto Bottle. And do the exact same thing for the bottle this time. Okay, and there we have the bottle. We can also just trim this down here. And there we have it. So of course we can go and press F on the keyboard for both of these layers and feather the mask a little bit, like 5 pixels, and then open up the mask expansion. And then just put this like -3, -4, and there we go. So this looks okay. We're gonna leave it as it is right here. And actually 5 is way too much. Something like 2. Okay, perfect. So now we have this right here. What we want to do is now create something that will be our frozen effect below our hand. So that's why we did a roto of our hand, because the effect is going to be applied on the bottom here. So to do that, I'm going to create a new solid layer, and this is going to be our frost alpha. And click OK. Now we're going to disable this layer. Or actually we're going to enable it, press T on the keyboard and just lower the opacity to something like 50. Go and toggle the switches and click on a 3D enable, and enable the 3D right here. Then we're going to rotate our tools here with the W key. We can go to the rotate tool and rotate it to kind of fit the scene's 3D perspective. So we can rotate it like this and try to kind of match the table. I just personally find this easier to work like this, but it's not necessarily necessary. So okay, there we have it. So we have something right here. We can actually just yeah, put it in the center of the hand, and then we want to just press T on the keyboard again and just increase the opacity again, and we're going to disable the layer. Click on the layer, and we're also going to trim this to the start point of the rotos. We're going to click here, and we're going to make, with the mask tool, a kind of frost surface shape like this. Okay, So we have something like this now. If we enable it again, we can press F on the keyboard and feather it quite a bit, something like that. We're going to bring it down from our bottle and our hand, and now we can see the effect is applied to the table. And what you want to do now is actually the fun part, to really kind of create a texture that kind of matches a frosty kind of effect. So what you can do is go to effects and presets, and here we're going to search for roughen edges, and if we apply that to our feathered solid layer here, look what that does. So immediately we get this kind of texture that we can work with. So what you can do is go into the complexity and change this maybe to 5 or play around maybe 10, and we can see a lot more detail in here. We can also play with the border if you want more kind of spacing. And of course you can also play with the fractal influence. Maybe you want less, maybe more. Also the sharpness. And also the scale. So something like this is pretty cool. I'm going to increase the border quite a bit. I quite like this one here. And we can also play a little bit more with the feather and maybe increase it, and then you get this kind of different result. And what I like to do here is maybe something like this here. So 350 in the feather. And now what you want to do is open up the mask options again and click on the stopwatch for the expansion. Move that 1 or 2 seconds forwards, and then just decrease the expansion until you don't see the mask anymore. And that's how you get this kind of effect of the frost kind of growing on the table, which is really cool. And then next what you want to do is go into your project manager, and that kind of texture that you just created, put that in a new composition. Just if you want to apply effects to that later, we can use it like this, and then go back to your composition and just import that composition with the texture in your main composition. So we'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it, and then right here we can just bring this below the frost alpha. And also we can make this a 3D layer to kind of match the perspective. What we'll do is press P on the keyboard on the solid layer from the alpha, and then hold Shift and press R on the keyboard. Now we have the position and the orientation. We can hold Ctrl to select both of these, and then hold Ctrl, press C on the keyboard, click on your texture and paste it. And then you can also press S on the keyboard and just scale it down to kind of match the surface right here, so we can make it pretty small like that. And then all you have to do is toggle the switches right here until you see the track matte option, and make sure it's below the frost alpha layer, and then we're just going to choose alpha matte, and there we go. So now we have the frost effect already right here. So that's all we need to do, and it's growing here, so really cool. And of course now you can play around with the blending modes to see what works. You can click on one of the blending modes and then hold Shift and press the plus sign on your keyboard to kind of toggle through all of the blending modes. And I think I like lighten right here, or lighten overlays, also pretty cool. So it's completely up to you. I think I'm going for lighten this time. Okay, there we have it. And now once you have that, we can also see here in the bottle, I will actually open my mask expansion here. It's a little bit too much. We can see that it's kind of leaking in here. So, okay, there we go. So now for the bottle, we're going to do the same principle that we just did for the hand right here, but we're going to create a cylinder. So what we'll do is apply the pattern right here into our composition, and also just right click on it, transform, and fit the to comp with. There we go. Then I'm going again to effects and presets and search for cylinder. CC cylinder, and I'm going to apply that to my texture, and I'm going to render only the outside. And then for the radius, we want to lower this to something like maybe 50 or 40. And we kind of want to match the dimensions of the bottle. And then with the position, we can position this on top of our bottle. And with the rotation tool, you can really match it up. And there we go. So now we have our cylinder right here. And what we want to do is use our bottle roto here. We're going to duplicate this, put this on top of our pattern, and then click on the texture alpha matte. And there we have our texture on our bottle. And all we need to do now is just animate this on as well. So what we'll do is select these two layers that we just combined, go to layer, pre-compose, bottle, frozen effect, and then go to your mask tool. And we're going to just simply click over here, over here, over here, and then just close the mask like this. And all we have to do is press M on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch for the mask path, move it like down so you don't see it on the bottle yet, and then move a few frames forward and move it up, and then only select the top points right here and then move it up even further. And of course you can kind of make it more like the correct dimension here. So you kind of want to follow the curvature of the bottle. And there we go. So this is what we want. Then we can click on the last keyframe, go to keyframe assistance and easy ease it so it comes to a slow stop, and then go into the graph editor, make it even smoother. And that's something you can do, but you don't have to do. And then press F on the keyboard to feather that mask as well. Maybe we want to open up the effect a little bit more and play with the expansion. And again, apply the roughen edges effect to the bottle, so right here. And again, play with the border. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, and I'm just going to copy this roughen edges effect and paste it over here. Let's see what that does. It's way too big, so in this case I'm going to play with maybe 10, something like this. Yes, lower the edge sharpening and maybe the scale. Okay, you can feather it even more so we get a little bit more of this kind of look, which is pretty cool. Alright, so that looks pretty nice. And we can also go back to the bottle here, and actually I'm going to click on my bottle and I'm going to open up the mask options here and just increase the expansion a little bit because I see it's kind of leaking through here. Something like that seems better. Okay. And then again, play with the blending mode. So go to darken and just toggle through. And here I actually think the divide looks really, really interesting. And if we duplicate it, let's see what happens. This is getting too much. But it's interesting, it's really interesting. What we can do is duplicate it once more and maybe change it to a screen or lighten. And just lower the opacity by pressing T on the keyboard and bringing that down. Put it below the divide maybe. Or on top of it, it's actually better. And of course we can go and apply a curves, color correction curves. Play with the contrast. And here we're getting something. Then go effect, color correction, tint to make sure it's black and white. And in the black I'm actually going to introduce a little bit of blue because the coolness of ice has to kind of come through here. Something like this, and then we copy the tint effect and also apply it to our texture here on the table. And there we have it. So for the table texture right here, we have also the frost alpha and our pattern. I'm also going for a layer, pre-compose these, and just table frozen effect, click OK, and again changes to a lighten. And then I'm going for layer styles, drop shadow. And we can go in here and play with the opacity here, and definitely with the size and the spread. and then change the blending mode to lighten and play with the colors. And that's also something how you get some interesting kind of results right here. Increase the opacity and kind of add some kind of special glow below it, which makes it also pretty interesting. And yeah, just play around with everything. And actually right here, I don't like the bottom part here of the divide effect, so I'm just going to cut this out on the bottom and then subtract this layer. Press F on the keyboard and feather it quite a bit to make it smooth, but I like kind of the highlights that it creates, so I'm gonna keep that. Okay. So basically that's how you create the kind of eyes growing effect, and just make sure that your timing is correct. So right here we have, if we press U on the keyboard, we can offset our eyes effect here. So we're growing the eyes and then the bottle kicks in and everything grows nicely like that. I'm actually going to make it a little bit shorter. Or actually I like it. Okay, so now what you can do is also use the information that we have used for the alpha here and the alpha here to generate particles if you want to. So what we'll do is go into the table frozen effect, click on the alpha here and copy that and paste it back here in our original composition. And then we're just going to enable it for now so you can see it. So this information as it's growing, so if we solo this right here, is going to generate our particles. So that's also going to be very interesting. So I'm going to pre-compose this once more. So I'm going for layer, pre-compose, particle generator, move all the attributes and adjust composition duration, click OK, and there we have it. And now we want to create a 3D layer out of this. That's something that is necessary for our particles, and we will be using a plugin called Trapcode Particular. If you don't have that, it's really a very powerful plugin that you can do tons of cool things with it. But if you don't have it and you can't follow along anymore, you don't really need it, so it's not that big of a deal. You already know how to achieve the effect. But I'm going to disable it here. I'm going to create a new solid layer. I'm going to make particles and apply effect Trapcode Particular. And I'm also going to solo this so we have a little bit more focus on this one right here. I'm going to open up the emitter tab right here, and I'm going to choose an emitter type layer, and then going to in the layer emitter and choose the particle generator. And for the RGB usage, just set it at none. So we have white particles, and also set the particles per second to something like 2500. So we can actually see what's happening. And then you can see right here, so it's growing. As it's growing, the particles kind of start creating right here. And if we set the velocity to 0, we will actually see what's happening. So it's just generating on that layer that we just created. So that's great. That's exactly what we need. We can set the velocity to something like 50. Go into the particles tab and change the live duration maybe to something like 5. Live random at 50. The size maybe to 3. Or even smaller. And then set the random to 100. The size I'm gonna set to 1 or 2. Okay. Then the size over live, we can actually kind of make them flicker off like that. And then for the opacity, I'm going over live. I'm gonna choose this one right here. Then we're going into the physics step. Gravity to -150. In the air tab, we can open the turbulence field, which is going to do some kind of turbulence in the particles, maybe 250, with a scale of 5 and a speed of 5. There we go. So let's see what this is doing actually. And I'm going to start my preview from here, of course. And basically this effect is just going to kind of generate some kind of magical effect that I'm emitting to create that frozen effect. So okay, so that's pretty cool. What I'm going to do is now duplicate my particles. So click on the layer, edit, duplicate, and I'm going to just solo this one right here. And here I want to make kind of less particles, like 500. And I want to go into the particle tab and change the sphere to a cloudlet. So the particle type right here. And for the size now we're going to set this to like 150. And this is just going to be some kind of, or 100, some kind of clouds to really kind of make steam of the ice, if that makes sense. So maybe 75, let's see what we can do with this. And also the size random, I'm just going to set it to 25%. So we don't have that much variation. And actually the size can be bigger, 100. Okay, cool. And then we are going for the opacity, set this to something like 2. And the opacity random to 25 maybe. Maybe that's too much or not. No, that seems about right. And that's pretty cool. So if we're going to unsolo this, we get some kind of steam looking particles right here. So that's really interesting. We can also increase maybe the particles to 1000 and see what that does. Maybe that's too much, maybe not. And we can also finally click on the layer and press T on the keyboard and lower the opacity even more to something like 50 or even 35. The point is that it's very subtle, so it doesn't have to be obvious. For the particles itself, you can also maybe lower it to 1500 particles, so you don't see as many. You just need to see a few streams of particles. That's what makes it cool. And then scroll all the way down and go into the render settings, and we're going to the motion blur, which is going to make it realistic, and change the motion blur instead of comp settings to on. And then we're going to change the shutter angle to something like 640, and you're going to see kind of streaks. And actually 360 was perfect. Okay, last time I tried it, it didn't look so good. Okay, so I'm going to preview this and see what we got. And that looks pretty cool. All I want to do is kind of set the evolution speed here to 0 for the position here for the turbulence field, and for the clouds I actually want to disable it, and I want to increase the size a little bit more and take the live away to something like 3. And for the particles I want to set less, like 750, and there we go, keep it subtle. And I think that will look great. So one last thing you can do is apply a final adjustment layer and apply a lumetri effect, color correction lumetri, and apply a creative LUT, which you can find anywhere. But if you're interested, we have a few of our own LUTs right here that we created, which are pretty cool. So you have a lot of stuff here that you can apply. And then just lower the intensity to give it some kind of grade on overall. And of course you can also apply a glow effect to it. And of course you can apply a glow effect. I'm going to be using Perfect Glow, which is from our website. I will put a link in the description. And there we can really get a nice and natural looking glow. And that makes it look like this. So that's pretty cool. Alright, I hope you enjoyed. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. Here we go. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel for more and hit the notification bell to stay notified when I upload new videos. And apart from that, I wish you all a happy new year. Make the best of it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.